classic villains, conspiracies, and as all the universe's stage, all this is afoot in Pursuing Prodigy. Good morning, all starships in the Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta quadrants. This is Josh Pritchett Jr. coming to you on the Movers and Shakers Unlimited Network with our latest Star Trek review series, Pursuing Prodigy. Today I will be flying solo across the vastness of space as I cover the first 3 episodes of Star Trek's latest and greatest season 2 of Prodigy. And without further ado, let's go fast. So, we are 3 episodes into this season of Star Trek Prodigy. The first episode, of course, premiered the same week that the season finale of Star Trek Lower Decks aired, and we have since had 2 more really exciting episodes. First episode is Asylum, in which our young crew finds a Starfleet listening outpost. The Starfleet listening outpost basically relays communications. We saw one that was very similar to this in the season, in the third season of Star Trek Discovery, but this one is, of course, in the latter half of the 24th century. It is a combination of relay station and also for listening for deep space communications of heretofore undiscovered life forms. So, Prodigy and its crew have thought, at last, we found the Federation. We're ready to ask for asylum and to join Starfleet and become actual Starfleet cadets. Unfortunately, though, when they get there, at first they are greeted with open arms by the station's lone attendant. However, when the attendant attempts to download the mission logs of Prodigy, he discovers the weapon that Gwen's father put on board Discovery, and without any other targets, the space station starts shooting itself with its own defensive weapons. The attendant escapes, and our crew manages to make it back aboard the Prodigy. Meanwhile, real Janeway and her crew have gone to Gwen's father's planet where he was keeping all the child slaves, and have discovered him in a catatonic state. As you will recall from the end of season 1, Zero, using their Medusan abilities, all but mind wiped Gwen's father for his crimes and to prevent him from using Prodigy as a weapon. Unfortunately, the weapon is already on Prodigy, but because Gwen was also caught in the blast, some of her memories were wiped out too, so she didn't initially remember it. Well, in episode 2, Let Sleeping Borgs Lie, Gwen has recovered her memories, and with the use of the holodeck, they have pieced together more or less what Gwen's father has done, and then they have managed to find the weapon. It is hidden in a Jeffries tube that has been retrofitted beneath Prodigy's main bridge. So they don't know how to get it off there. It does not seem to exist in actual space-time, but just right outside of it. And if it finds its way onto another Federation starship or star base, it could trigger a cascading effect, which could cause Federation vessels to start firing on one another and thereby destroying the Federation from within. But then, after discovering the weapon, our crew makes a very startling discovery. A Borg cube, which is in stasis mode, is in their path. Of course, our crew does not know anything at all about the Borg just yet, but holograph Janeway, which draws on the memories of Captain Catherine Janeway, knows all about them. And she urges them not to go aboard the cube, but our crew reasons that perhaps there is a way that the Borg might be, something of their technology might be useful to get rid of the weapon, and then they can go to Starfleet. Well, they go aboard the cube and begin exploring it, and Zero realizes that the only way to gain access to the Borg's technology is he has to interface with the collective. Given the fact that Medusans are already members of a collective of their own, he thinks that he might be able to withstand this. This is not the case. Zero is eventually assimilated by the collective, and the rest of the crew is hunted throughout the ship. Eventually, Gwen is able to convince Borg Zero that he is not part of the collective, that she has forgiven him for using his powers to mind wipe her father and partially mind wipe her, that she knows it was an accident, and help Zero forgive himself enough so that he can break with the collective's assimilation. Our crew is then able to escape the cube and get away, but now, of course, the Borg know about them and know about their weapon, or rather the weapon that Gwen's father put on the ship, and they are very, very interested in getting this weapon. So, of course, as we all know from previous experience, the Borg, when they find there's something that they want, they don't stop till they get it. So our crew now has a new problem. Meanwhile, Janeway and the crew of her ship have found the destroyed relay station. Janeway knows that Chakotay, who was captaining the Protostar when it was launched, could never do something like that. So she is basically convinced that somebody has taken over the Prodigy, or rather the Protostar, I'm sorry, and is now possibly up to no good. And that takes us into episode 3, All the World's a Stage, in which our crew finds a planet where the inhabitants seem to be very deeply influenced by James T. Kirk and the Enterprise. They even refer to themselves as the Enterprisers. Everybody dresses like in crude imitations of Starfleet uniforms from the early 23rd century. And we find out that some years before, a Galileo-class shuttlecraft, which was very commonly used by Starfleet at the time, crash landed on this planet. There was only one sole survivor, a young ensign, and apparently, due to a plasma leak that is mixing with dilithium crystals that are underneath a mountain, it is causing a toxic radiation surge around the planet. So, our crew has to find a way to fix the problem and then cure the inhabitants of the toxic maelstrom that has been unleashed by the shuttle. And of course, they are very successful, with Dal being renewed in his faith that going to Starfleet, or Starfleet's ideals, are the best ones, because he has a crisis of faith at one point about, this was a crazy idea, us going to the Federation. We don't belong there. And he realizes, well, maybe we can't get there because of the weapon, but we can live up to its ideals and try to help people and boldly go where no one has gone before. And with that renewed sense of purpose, that sort of wraps up our summary of the first 3 episodes. And now we will proceed into the good, the bad, and the Gorn. So, what was really good about these 3 episodes? It infinitely has the optimistic spirit of Star Trek. It is really wonderful seeing this cast of young crew members on their own going through space and exploring and taking on these responsibilities. They are a very hopeful bunch. I really like them a lot. I also have to say that I really like the fact that in episode two, when Gwen is fighting the Borg, she makes her artifact weapon turn into a bat'leth. Like, yeah, cool. So that was pretty awesome to see her doing that. Clearly, she has been checking out Starfleet database banks aboard the Prodigy and is learning about the Klingons. Um, I, I love the fact that they've also really gotten more into all these characters. The Medusans, um, Jankum, the Tellarite, has discovered that he is a Tellarite, and he is just as insufferable as ever. In fact, he's more so because when he found out that Tellarites were actually founding members of the Federation, he feels like he's royalty. So it's quite hilarious to watch. Um, the voice talents are amazing on this show. I like the fact that Gwen's father, is not completely written off. He is still the big bad, and he's still out there. Uh, Voiced, of course, by the great actor John Noble, and he's just incredible doing this, playing the character. And of course, it's great having uh, Kate. Sorry, uh, Kate Mulgrew returning as Janeway, and even guest appearances by Robert Beltran as Chakotay. For those of you like me who were big fans of Voyager, it's like coming home again. Um, I feel like there is a lot of fan service, but there's also a lot of original Star Trek content that is still very much in the vein of Star Trek storytelling, of optimism and hope, and boldly going to strange new worlds, which is what we love. I don't think that there's anything really particularly bad about any of these episodes. If anything, they've all kept me going. Um, I've been very excited about the show. Um, I'm constantly looking forward to that. But I can't really think of anything. I think that they're doing wrong. I think if anything, they're really hitting a lot of their numbers, and I think they're really doing very well. So, but moving into the Gorn, I have a question, and if anybody's would like to get back to me on this is something I want to bring up. Given the popularity and the level of writing and animation that have been done on both Prodigy and Lower Decks, is the future of Star Trek and animation? I mean, I'm not saying let's get rid of the live action shows and just focus everything on animated stuff. I'm saying though, it feels like both Prodigy and Lower Decks, I feel like the writing has been very consistent. It's been very good. It's captured the feeling of Star Trek, and I really feel like they've really accomplished something with this, and it is bringing in new fans, which is good for me because those of us who are getting older would like to get these youngins in there watching Star Trek and keeping the spirit alive into the rest of the 21st century and beyond. And we can only do that by bringing getting young people to join in. And recently, Star Trek Prodigy won an award for excellent children's animation. So that's been a real positive for us, and I hope we keep going with that. The level of episodes, like I said, the writing has been excellent on both Prodigy and Lower Decks, and I think having people, somebody like Kate Mulgrew and John Noble and other actors has been amazing to have them back on Star Trek and leading the charge, as it were, to create this. One other thing, and I forgot to mention this in the first part when we were reviewing Asylum. Dahl has discovered that his species is classified. Now, when they get to the listing post, they're all scanned, and Jankum discovers he's a Tellarite. Zero knew he was Medusan in the beginning. Rock and Gwen, they're unknown, although we know that Gwen's people will be discovered sometime in the future. It's just that they haven't been met yet by Starfleet. But Dal is classified. Now, I've been watching Star Trek a long, long time, folks. I have never heard of Starfleet just saying these people are classified. We know they exist, but we're not telling anybody that they exist. Why? Why? Now that is a very good question, and one I would love to hear some answers from people in the coming weeks. I have a couple of different theories. I was talking with a very good friend of the show, and one idea we came up with is maybe Dal comes from another timeline, like the Kelvin timeline. Okay, that's really interesting. Maybe not we obviously not until the 31st century does Starfleet acknowledge the existence of what we call the Kelvin timeline, which, of course, for those of you who may have forgotten, the Kelvin timeline is the universe in which Chris Pine plays Captain Kirk. So are we going to dip our toes into Kelvin timeline stuff a little bit more? I'd love to see that. Another thought, and I want to bring this up. Could Dal be a Breen? Now, we don't really know much about the Breen. And we know they wear those big isolation suits. So, could Dal be from the Breen? Okay. That's an interesting thought. I mean, obviously, based on what we saw at the end of Lower Decks last season, it looks like the Breen are going to be making a comeback. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So we'll keep an eye on that. But obviously, if Dal is a Breen, then those isolation suits are not for their personal safety because he's clearly not walking around in one. So are we going to learn more about the Breen in this series? Maybe. But we will see. And I think it'll be interesting to find out who Dal's people are. And that kind of goes a little bit into our predictions that we will learn more about Dal's future. That's a given. And we will obviously see more Gwen's father. I think that's a safe bet. But how is our crew going to find a way to get this weapon off of our ship and find their way to their ultimate goal, the Federation and Starfleet Academy? Well, we don't know, but we're going to have to keep watching. So hopefully we will be back again. Obviously, we will be back again next week to find out more as we get into episode 4 of this season. So far, though, I am very, very pleased with the direction of Star Trek Prodigy. I look forward to the cast members and the crew. And I just want to add, in case anybody is thinking about coming to Star Trek, to our Star Trek convention and Farpoint this February, there'll be an exciting guest. If you happen to be a big fan of the show, they will actually have a guest from Star Trek Prodigy will be there. And that'll be, so I'm trying to pull up the name right now. But we will have some of the voice actors from, Riley Alizerica. I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. But we will have her and her father, who is also a very talented voice animation actor, will be at Star Trek's convention Farpoint this February. And you can meet her there and ask questions about Prodigy or whatever she's able to tell us. So maybe she has some theories. It's something I know is a few months away and we haven't even got past Turkey Day and Christmas and all that good stuff, but something to look forward to. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up here. I will hopefully be having a few recurring co-guest hosts throughout this series. Um, and who knows? Maybe one of you lucky fans, because we have some of the smartest Star Trek fans out there. Maybe we might invite one of you to come be our co-host. I know I'm off the fly here, but you know, couldn't hurt. So join us again next week for another episode of Pursuing Prodigy on the Movers and Shakers Unlimited Network. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And all those likes help us, build new programs. In the meantime, if you would like to reach out to me, I am Josh Pritchett Jr. on Facebook. I'm also the head of the Star Trek meetup group, or rather the Star Trek Northern Virginia meetup group at meetup.org. If you live in the Northern Virginia or Southern Maryland area and would like to meet some like-minded Trekkies and do fun things like go to lunch, check out movies, or just plain out talk Star Trek stuff, there's a great bunch of people. So, feel free to join us. We're pretty open-minded. So until next week, live long and prosper, kapla, and have a great week.